Yeah. And so it's like. Size and. Yes. There's a huge, yeah, and they like, you know, and nice places. Okay. Yeah, you should have said it. That's your mom's there. Okay, no, I know. Okay, it is 1:31. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Yeah. And we'll begin with the roll call, commission members. Mr. Paulson.
Present.
Commissioner Rubin.
Present.
And I'm here, and we have a quorum. And then we'll begin with I'd like to request a motion to approve the minutes from our August 7th, 2025 meeting. So moved by Commissioner Rubin.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ponce. I'm a yes, and the motion carries unanimously. The minutes will be posted on the commission's website. There are 6 projects on today's agenda. Staff of the commission will present the project on the agenda and state their recommendation. Following the staff presentation, the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff. The applicant may then make their statement. Following the applicant statements, members of the public may make their statement. I'd like to ask anyone other than the applicant wishing to make a statement on the item on today's agenda to complete a public comment card. And give the cards to a member of the staff. Comment cards are available at the door. As a courtesy to other individuals wishing to talk about comments, we ask that members of the general public limit your statements to 3 minutes or less. When the time comes for public comment on the item on the agenda, I will call the names of the cards and ask you to make a statement. State your name, your interest, organization, and company represented, if any. And our first project for today is Washington Square Park in the second ward, the Washington Square District. Requested determination of feasibility to construct a new dog-friendly area in the historic Washington Square Park. And I'd like to call on Emily Barton for the report.
Thank you. So Washington Square Park is the second oldest park in the city of Chicago and the oldest surviving today, dating back from 1842. It's located between Clark and Dearborn Streets, Walton Street, and Delaware Place. Newberry Library is directly to the north, overlooking the park. Upon request of multiple residents in the near north neighborhood, the Office of Alderman Brian Hopkins is requesting the Permit Review Committee and the Chicago Park District determine the feasibility of a dog-friendly area at the park. The area has not yet been designed, but the submitted information is to theoretically describe the features that would be part of such an area in order to seek determination from PRC. Per the submission, it should not be construed as the second ward office taking a position to an area generally. It's more informational fact finding. If a DFA is feasible, a volunteer-led resident group will be prompted to follow Chicago Park District guidelines, informing a committee, securing petition signatures, fundraising, and holding public meetings. The landmark designation ordinance covers the park in its entirety, Newberry Library, Scottish Rite Cathedral, and Scottish Rite Association offices. So per the designation report, Washington Square Park was donated to the city in 1842 by Erasmus Bushnell. The terms of the donation specified that the park was to be landscaped and enclosed with a fence, and in 1869, trees and grass were planted between the arms of the paths, which crossed the park in an X shape. A low stone coping was placed along the perimeter of the park, and a wooden fence was erected inside the stone border. After some incompatible changes made to the park in the 1970s, prior to designation, the commission approved a park renovation in 1999. This renovation reversed some of the incompatible changes by restoring the original X-shaped layout of the paths, recreating the historic central fountain and light fixtures based off of historic photographs, and the addition of park benches. Part of the scope also included the insertion of a new 3-foot tall ornamental iron fence along the perimeter of the park and surrounding the new fountain. The historically open character of the park is one of its most important features, and this fencing was only approved because of its minimal height and design, its location being 9 inches inset from the historic limestone curb, not impeding any historic fabric. And importantly, the fencing also maintained the symmetry of the original landscaping design and is the only permanent fencing within the park. As the dog-friendly area for the subject park has not yet been designed, the Alderman has provided 2 proposals for committee's consideration, both within the northern quadrant of the park. So proposal A would take up approximately 50 to 60% of this quadrant, whereas proposal B would take up the entirety, which is approximately 25% of the whole park. In both proposals, 2 separate areas are contemplated, one for large dogs and one for small dogs. Fencing would be required around both areas of either proposal, and would likely be a 6-foot tall open metal fence with dual gates for egress and ingress for secure access and to mitigate unintended escape. In addition to the fencing, several other features would need to be accommodated. Most impactful would be an all concrete surface for the entirety of the area with small trees in mulched tree pits. And a permanent awning would need to be affixed to new posts for a shaded area, and water connections and sewer access would be required. Possible features the applicant may additionally explore are dog-friendly waiting areas for both the large and small dog sections of the park. The modifications to construct a dog-friendly area would have a significant negative impact on the park. Paving 20% of the park would disrupt the symmetry and alter the characteristics of the always historically open green space. The park fountain is the only vertical element in the original design, and adding new 6-foot tall fencing and a permanent shade structure would impact the historic hierarchy of the landscaping. The park has maintained a high degree of integrity since its initial landscaping in 1869, and care has been taken not to add new features that distract from or conceal the simplicity of the original design intent. Staff recommend that these physical changes would have an adverse effect on the historic design and significant features of the park, and therefore should not be approved. In addition to PRC determination, the Alderman has also reached out to Chicago Park District for their opinion. And we understand from their regulations that a dog-friendly area must be at least 0.10 acres and no more than 3% of the total park area. So because Washington Square Park is a smaller passive park, dedicating even the minimum space of 0.10 acres exceeds the maximum percentage allowed of the total park area. So ultimately, the Park District will provide their own determination, but beyond that, today's PRC review is limited to the designation ordinance, and the request is for official determination in terms of historic preservation review only. So staff recommend that the committee determine and advise that the various alterations that would be part of any potential proposal for a dog-friendly area in Washington Square Park, including physical barriers such as fencing, extensive paving of green space, permanent shade structures, etc., would have an adverse effect on the historic design and significant features of the park, would not be consistent with the commission standards and guidelines, and therefore would not be approved. That concludes. If you have any questions of me, also we have Brian from Alderman Hopkins' office too.
All right, well, thank you so much, Emily. Commissioners, any questions for Emily before we move to the Alderman's office? Seeing none, let's hear from Brian at the Alderman's office.
Hi, Brian Pellwright on behalf of Alderman Hopkins. Thank you for having me. The aldermen in the community are acutely aware of the park's historic significance and landmark status. Nevertheless, after substantial community interest in a dog-friendly area, our office put forward a proposal in order to get an official ruling from this body to take back to the community. As Emily stated, Alderman Hopkins, despite submitting this proposal, should not be seen as taking a position either way on this matter, but rather seeking official determination. Thank you for historic preservation staff time and attention to this matter, and thank you to this body. Much.
Thank you for being here, and Commissioners, any questions for the Alderman's office? Or your public comment?
How'd you get to a proposal of 20% of the entire park?
Trying to balance the park district's guidelines that Emily referred to and what would, fit there. It's, obviously it's problematic, as I think Emily did a really good job outlining.
No, I was, my question, you answered it. What did the park district say? So I appreciate that answer from them. And I also appreciate the, Alderman's office taking this effort, to give a response to the residents of this area.
Thank you. I'm also glad that Emily covered the fence question, because I actually did not know that was something that this body had previously approved, because somebody did say at a big public meeting that we had, well, what about the fence? They put up a fence. Well, turns out that this body had in fact approved that fence, so that's good to know as well.
What's the next closest dog park?
That is a problem that we have. There really are not any in that immediate area, and there's a very high concentration of dogs. So the next one I think is probably Bennett Park, which is a good mile plus away, in Streeterville, yeah. So that is a challenge that we have. There is going to be the installation of one at Park 598 in Old Town, but that's almost as far in the other direction.
Very much. And I think that we'll just public comment now and see two people in front to speak. Mr. Ward Miller.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. I think we understand the need of the community. And thank you, Brian and Alderman Hopkins for coming to Landmarks. I think this is one of those critical issues where, I grew up in this neighborhood near North Side. This was, Funhouse Square as we knew it. There was a lot of free speech that was given from the podium there. It's one of the city's most historic spaces and squares. We don't have a lot of these in that neighborhood. And to see maybe 20%, but in that diagram, it looked like it was a quarter of the park. It was suddenly turned over to dogs of different sizes. And, we get the idea that, maybe a tiny little space could be dedicated, maybe with grass or whatnot, but to see really what looks to be like a quarter of the park used for this just seems excessive, if you will. And to see it paved in concrete is another issue, and to see so many trees, historic trees, impacted is just another aspect that I think we should think about. Plus, it's a historic square with the Newberry Library and the Washington Square Landmark District fronting two sides, if you will, of this historic park framed by Ogden School. And at Ogden School, we used to go to this park frequently, so kitty corner, if you will. So I would say that this really needs to go somewhere else. I think there's a need, and there are some spaces that are open on Oak Street, just west of Clark, that are owned privately. And I don't know if there's some way that the park district could acquire those two sites. They were a series of historic buildings that were just demolished. But that would be at least close and adjacent to this park and not impact the historic nature of Chicago's second oldest park. When I was a kid, we thought of it as the oldest park in the city of Chicago, and one of the few squares that we have, these green squares. And to see a dog park in front of the Newberry Library, one of our great resources, our cultural resources, it seems like it would diminish the square and every institution and historic site around it. So a difficult decision, but I think an organization like Preservation Chicago, we would definitely support the staff recommendation and suggest that the park district also find some other nearby lands, realizing the need, which is a reality, but not a quarter of this historic park. I think you're cutting trees. I think you're going to find a very upset neighborhood if you were to head through with this. And it's really not a green solution, if you will, by taking grass and trees and covering it with concrete and all these other ancillary structures. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I think that actually it's the only comment because the other ones. So, that concludes, public comment portion, and, brings us to final discussion, commissioners.
Yeah, I mean, well said, Mr. Miller. The historical context of this park, I mean, we don't have any others, and that's what Chicago is known for. And the images that we saw, it was a little bit shocking to me to see how large of a area that was proposed. But, there's definitely other areas of the city that want green space too, right? So of course, we want to find a home for our furry friends or a place for them to play, but I just don't think that this is the right place. And I would also be in favor of the staff's recommendations.
Thank you, Commissioner Ponce. All set. All said. I agree. If there's no further discussion, I'd like to, motion to adopt staff recommendation. Which I think we kind of
So moved.
did. Second. By Commissioner Rubin, and I'm a yes as well, and motion carries unanimously. So thank you. Moving on to, item number 2, 2115 West, Potomac, First Ward in the Woodland Park District. We have the proposed conversion of existing single-family residence to 2 units, including, new rooftop additions, and other modifications. Emily also has this.
Thank you. All right, so the subject property is located mid-block on Potomac Avenue between Levitt Street and Des Moines Avenue, with an immediately adjacent avenue to the east. The applicant is proposing a full rehabilitation of the building, including a new rooftop addition and deck, modifications to the east and west side elevations, and front north elevation. The property is currently a single-family residence, and with this rehabilitation, will be converted to 2 units. The applicant also proposes to demolish the existing non-historic rear garage for replacement with a new ADU, which would be a 3rd unit in the future. The proposed rooftop addition is approximately 18 feet 10 inches in length and proposed to be predominantly set back from the outside face of the front parapet, 36 feet 7 inches, with a stair enclosure setback of approximately 16 feet. Consistent with commission policy, stair access towers are permitted to be visible so long as they're no wider or taller than required for code. To reduce visibility of this element, the stair tower is proposed to be angled to match the slope of the stair. The existing side parapets for the building match the height of the front parapet towards the front, but slope down as they approach the rear elevation. So the applicant's proposing to straighten out both of those parapets, so they're all the same height as at the front. The addition's proposed to be 8 foot 9 inches in height. However, because of this newly raised parapet, it would only extend 5 feet 3 inches above the roof line. The raised parapet will also serve as guardrails for a new roof deck that can be accessed through the stair enclosure. The new addition will largely be glazed, with the stair enclosure clad in standing seam metal panel. Staff recommend that the metal panel be neutral in tone and non-reflective. So visibility studies were conducted to evaluate any visibility of the new rooftop addition throughout the district. So the stair enclosure, you can see, is minimally visible looking east from down the street. From the second point, the stair enclosure is also minimally visible looking west from down the street, but no actual elements of the addition can be seen. From vantage point 3, you can't see anything. And then from this last one, 4, you also can't see anything. So overall, the addition is largely invisible from vantage points within the district, and the stair enclosure is only minimally visible. This minimal visibility will not have an adverse effect on the building or district, and staff recommend approval as proposed. Besides the rooftop addition, the applicant is proposing some modifications to the front and side elevations of the house. On the front facade, a new porch is proposed. It will feature closed risers and reclaimed cast iron newel posts. The existing non-historic door and side lights will be replaced with a new double door with fixed transom above. A new powder-coated steel canopy is proposed above the door. It's very minimal in design and located directly beneath the arched limestone banding that's above the door. Sometime in the past, you can see the building's original cornice was removed and replaced with non-historic masonry that doesn't match the rest of the facade. So the applicant's proposing to add an extruded PVC cornice with a dark finish in its place. And while there's no evidence as to what the original cornice looked like, the new one is simplified in design, not falsely reproducing any ornaments, and is characteristic with historic cornices in the district, and staff recommends approval. On the east side elevation facing the alley, the applicant is proposing to modify the masonry openings and introduce a decorative masonry lattice pattern on the outside face of the windows. None of this work will project past the existing footprint and will use common brick matching the utilitarian existing side elevation that's already there. Although contemporary design, staff recommends the modifications are not an adverse effect to the building. On the other side elevation on the west, the applicant is proposing to introduce a large side light at the middle of the building, highlighted there in blue. This new window will begin 7 feet 6 inches above grade and extend all the way up through the new stair addition. There is a 1.5-story workers' cottage directly west of the property with a very minimal side yard, and because of this, most of this window will not be visible from anywhere and will only be seen very minimally through the side yard. Because of the limited visibility, the plain common brick design, and the fact that the building footprint will not change, staff recommend that this also is not an adverse effect. Letters of support from Alderman LaSpada and the Wicker Park Committee have been included in your packet. And I'm here to give questions, as is the architect and owners.
Thank you so much, Emily. Any questions for Emily before you hear from me? All right, let's hear from the project architect and owner, I guess, Josh.
Yes. Okay. What else would you like to know?
Anything that
Well, I
would
did a very
introduce
good job
yourself?
of describing the project.
Introduce yourself, I guess, and.
Yeah, I'm Josh Hutchison. I am the principal of 3410. We've been working on this project since the early part of this year and beyond. This is a significantly scaled down version of what the owners wanted. And furthermore, there's other parts of this project that make it very unique in terms of its sustainability approach. We are hoping to achieve net zero energy consumption, and we are using the geothermal system as long as solar PV, and we are exceeding the energy code requirements for installation. So this is a broader project beyond what you're seeing today. We appreciate the consideration. Would you want to add anything? Not to put you on the spot.
I mean, I don't know if you, hi, I'm Justin.
Yeah, the owners get.
Yeah, we moved back here a year ago, bought this place from Chicago before. We wanted to, like, I guess our goal was add more housing to the city, needs it, go net zero because it seems like the right thing to do, and try to restore the facade. I'm not gonna say I'm happy with what came out of this. The process was frustrating, but at the end of the day, if this is the best we can get, the best we can get. At a minimum, we are adding some housing, and I think we can go net zero. It's really hard to look at the things with design now. Orientations change, you don't get solar gain anymore. Just it really makes it hard.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for being here to speak on your project. Any questions for the owner and applicant?
I'm curious, what were the challenges?
Yeah.
You know, where you started or why you had to scale back, what was it?
So, I mean, it comes down to visibility. I will say that we didn't know anything about Chicago landmarks when we bought the building. And so this was entirely new to us. We didn't understand landmark districts. We had thought that it was just the visibility from the front or across the street from 2 different angles. We did not realize the alley would be an issue. We searched high and low for documentation on things. I mean, my wife and I both spent years in the federal government. I worked on public standards for many years. I'm used to things being written down and like sort of having a clear guidance. And then you come in and you ask when there are variances, and it just, that's not, the process was very confusing. Now I will say we weren't ourselves involved until very later. And so I think that that is something that we would have done differently. It's just, I don't know. As a homeowner, this process was very confusing. We went in feeling like we were trying to do all the right things. We're trying to do things the right way. I mean, we're not. it's gonna cost us more to add the housing. It's costing us more to like, to go net zero and all that. These are all things that we're doing. And it's just developed, yeah. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I know everybody's only trying to do their job. It's just.
I think maybe we can explain that the original design was, that third floor was supposed to be an office. They both work from home. Now that they cannot use the full, not the full footprint, but the footprint that was originally designed, this office is not happening to them, so they will probably use one of the units that they were going to rent as an office. So the idea of having, 2 units that they could rent as
Right
their
away.
own is not working as well.
Yeah.
And this is due to the visibility from the alley.
Yeah.
Just because there is a 16-foot alley next to their property. This original design was never visible from Potomac Street. It's only an issue of because of this alley. So yeah, so losing what they could have on the roof is deeply impacting the way they're going to use their house and how many units they can rent.
Well, thanks for providing that context, and every now and then we do have homeowners that hit this roadblock, right? And the reason why I ask is to learn from it too, for on our end, how can we serve you better? Cause it is a surprise. It's not a pleasant surprise when you buy something and you have your dreams and you have to take a left turn all of a sudden. But I hope that at least here, the staff has been very helpful to help you get to the next level. And I personally thank you for going that net zero route. Always push for not focus on the exteriors and just doing the minimal guidelines, but how can you push it further? Right, so.
To speak to the one thing that you said about how it could help, I mean, we were, the communication's hard. We were confused on things. It's just, like I said, I spent many years working in public standards, and it was like what I was always taught is write it down, strive for like objectivity, not subjectivity in decisions, make sure it's like documented ahead. And I guess that is just sort of, I walked into it sort of expecting that, and I think, but granted, I come from a technical field and all that, and it's a different sort of thing. But if the one thing, my one piece of feedback to the homeowner is the more that's written down, the more we, going in, the more I think it saves everybody time and confusion and yeah, that would just be my one giant piece of feedback.
Thank you. And for what it's worth, I think it's a beautiful design, a beautiful solution to that lattice brick. And, you guys did really, really well with the pieces that you were handed.
Thank you.
I do want to say that what's being presented here, and there's some feelings about it, but what you're presenting here is very well done. I am curious about the lattice and how that, and it's not even from a landmarks, but I'm curious how that works. Is there a space between the lattice and the?
There's space between lathing system
Yeah.
and the mason. And it's really hard to maintain a window.
Yeah, that's what I was always curious about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
Again,
technically, it's
and this all goes back to the sustainability aspect of the project, and that we're using triple glazing, which has these features such as tilt and turn. So, but yeah, we appreciate you like the project. It was much more ambitious. It really, to me, serves as a prototype. Housing should be. It is truly restoring multi-unit housing and frankly, multi-generational housing.
It was originally a multi-unit, by the way, like I went
Yeah.
and checked
Oh, yeah.
you can tell from the design, but also I went and looked at the original permit records from 1890.
In the sustainability aspect is really. So, I mean, that's really the hope, is that this can serve as some sort of prototype achieved in a landmark district.
All right, well, thank you for that. Anything else?
I think technically we covered it. I'll also commend you on identifying this as a multi-unit housing from the very beginning. You mentioned that it is now. That's commendable. One question, I won't go too far down this path because it's not really the grounds of the commission, but I'm curious at what point in the process, I'm guessing once you filed permits is the point once you learned all about landmark districts and all about what you weren't, or was it something that earlier on with your realtor, it came up in one way?
Actually, I think it was when we first started interviewing architects. We interviewed about half a dozen architects. And there were, I think, 3 who, I think neighbors had told us there's a landmark district thing, we didn't know what it was, and they were like, oh, the architects we interviewed, there were like 3 that, actually what a landmark district was. So right away, we were like, okay, we're gonna narrow it down.
Sure.
Uh, different one, but yeah, that was, I think it was the interviewing architect stage.
Interesting. It was never on the realtor stage.
He had no-
Realtor should have,
Yes,
yeah, that was nice.
it does feel like there should be disclosure.
Well, it's also, it's a level of a realtor's familiarity with the mechanics of a historic district, but also a bottom line of wanting to sell a piece of property regardless. So,
Yeah.
no, I asked only for the question of thinking about broad education about landmark districts and the commission and the work that's done. I don't know with any certainty what percentage of realtors who are working are deeply familiar with this or how to talk about it with potential buyers, but it's again, as we said, educational to know what your experience was, so that broadly we can make this process better for people going forward to the powers that we can.
Yeah, there's there's a tool the city has where you can do a lookup. And it shows it not being landmarked because it doesn't incorporate landmark districts. It just incorporates individually landmarked buildings. And so it showed up as not landmarked. And so we were surprised.
Just one comment. I'm surprised that it wouldn't have come up on your title search because they are recorded against the title when there's a landmark designation. So that should be something that you encountered at that point in time. And the online zoning map does have the boundary of the landmark district.
That was where we eventually found it later, but we didn't encounter that until later. I don't recall seeing anything on that title search. You know, you sign a lot of documents.
No, I mean, I understand it's easy to miss, but you
Yeah.
know, we do record against the titles for on landmark designations, just for that reason, so that people are aware.
Yeah, and it's entirely possible that at the end of the day, when you're closing and you're signing all those documents, it's one of the things. Although that's not the time you want to find.
It's not.
Right, yeah.
I understand.
Whoops.
I understand.
If no more discussion, I'd like to move to public comment. Mr. Ward Miller.
There you go again. Well, so Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. We want to commend the owners and the architect for working together and working with Landmark staff towards a really good outcome here. We didn't understand the challenges that you're facing until just a few minutes ago. And our heart goes out to you. I think we do need to figure out different ways of educating the public and getting real estate listings to mention this in a landmark district, because I think that's an important aspect. I think it's a sales aspect, to tell you the truth, on a lot of places that, the street you buy on and the character of the neighborhood is going to remain strong and stable. And I think that's really important. I live in a landmark district. It's been a wonderful experience, just so you know, but I'm not adding an ADU in the back or, a unit on the top, if you will. Understand the frustration here, but we've got a wonderful staff who's always available, and a great commission that's always available too. And I want to just commend you on a great project. So despite all the hardships, I think at the end of the day, you're going to really see that, all of this effort and some frustration was worth it all, hopefully. And beautiful restoration, if you will, of the front facade, taking into play what we think was there. And so my hat's off to you. And again, it's wonderful to see landmark districts, because there's a lot of cases throughout Chicago where we see buildings like this demolished rather than restored and reinvested into, and even rethought and revisioned. So we're very much supportive of this project.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any final discussion, commissioners? Seeing none, I'd like to request a motion to adopt staff recommendation.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Rubin,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ponce, and I'm a yes, and the motion carries unanimously. Good luck, and thank you for your stewardship on property. Moving to item number 3, 1032 North Wood. First ward, East Woods District, we are talking about the proposed conversion of existing 2-story, 2-unit building into a single-family residence, including construction of a rear addition and a partial 3rd-story addition. And call on Tyler Taylor for the presentation.
Thank you. This is the district. The project is located in East Village District. It's on Northwood between Vasca and Cortez. It's a masonry 2-flat, clad in red brick, with white limestone bands and sills, decorative brickwork, and a pressed metal cornice. Shown here from 2 angles, a contemporary one on the left and the CHRS photo from 2005 on the right. A permit application was initially received on May 20th for renovation of the building to convert it from 2 dwelling units to a single-family residence, adding both a rear addition and partial 3rd-story addition atop the existing roof, as well as a new detached garage at the rear of the site. The existing building is 29 foot 3 inches tall from grade to the top of the parapet, 21.7 wide, and at 37 feet 2 inches long, it's relatively short. The enclosed frame stair at the rear is proposed to be demolished to make way for an addition highlighted green in the site plan. That will expand the footprint of the building back 36 feet for a total length of 73 foot 2 inches. The south wall of the addition is aligned with the south existing wall, and the north wall would be set in 1 foot 10 inches, making the addition slightly narrower than the existing building. On both common brick side elevations, existing masonry openings are proposed to be infilled, and new masonry openings created. Where openings will be infilled, the infill masonry will be set in 2 inches from the existing exterior face. Due to the narrow side yards, visibility of these elevations is very limited, and staff recommends this work will not have an adverse effect. Similar work proposed at the south elevation. A simple utilitarian chimney exists on this elevation, just forward of the proposed addition, visible in the photo at top right. It appears to have been replaced with concrete block from the roof level up. This section of chimney from the roof up is proposed to be demolished as part of the scope work. Since the chimney is not original and is only minimally visible, staff recommend its demolition will not have an adverse effect on the historic roof line. However, the chimney is not shown on the south demolition elevation. The chimney also protrudes from the side elevation 4 inches. This is not shown on either the demolition or proposed south elevations. An existing window also exists or is on the 2nd floor, just forward of the chimney, which you can see a little bit of. But this window is not shown on the drawing. The permit drawing should be revised to show the chimney in the window and any work proposed to the window on both demolition and proposed drawings. No changes are proposed to the front elevation. The permit drawings show the proposed addition extending 10 foot 5 inches above the parapet level of the existing building. To assess how visible the proposed addition would be, an on-site mock-up was constructed using lumber shown here. The setback of the mock-up from the front of the building matched that shown on the drawing, so the top was 2 feet too short. To account for the height discrepancy, based on a known measurement, an overlay has been added to the sightline photos to show the correct height. From the north, due to the narrow side yard and the height of the adjacent building, it's only visible from a very narrow section of Northwood. From a few feet north and south of the point where this photo is taken, it's not visible at all. The top of the building is obscured by foliage this time of year, but a dashed line has been added to show where it would be. You can see it. Based on the other angles from the north and south, the addition would not be visible at all from directly in front or across the street, as shown in the map at right. Moving south, the addition becomes visible again. This photo is taken from the point with the most visibility, about 25 feet south of the property on Wood. And then finally, moving further south, the addition is no longer visible again from the point shown on the map. So some context: in the past, the committee has approved similar additions and dormers with comparable or greater visibility in the district, including those at 1032 North Honore shown at left, approved in 2015, 1043 Honore at right, approved in 2017. For the latter, the visible dormer was existing, so for clarity, the PRC approved extension is highlighted back. And then also, just recently, dormers were approved for 1046 Northwood on both the north and south shown here. All elevations of the addition are proposed to be clad in fiber cement lap siding. This is the same material used for most of the prior approvals mentioned previously. While visibility of the proposed addition is limited, the use of fiber cement lap siding is comparable with the district, or sorry, it's compatible with the district, and provided that the finish and lap exposure match those of typical wood siding. A color for the proposed cladding was not specified on the drawings. This cladding should have a maximum 4-inch lap exposure and a smooth finish. In order to further reduce visibility of the addition on the limited points at which it is visible, the cladding should be a dark neutral color, such as dark gray or black, and this should be noted on permit drawings when resubmitted. Staff recommend approval with the conditions I just mentioned, and in addition to the changes to the drawings recommended. The East Village Association has reviewed the proposal and provided a letter of no objection, which has been distributed to you. Alderman Laspada has reviewed the proposal and is opposed. A letter of opposition was included in your packets, and copies have also been distributed. I believe the architect and owner are here and available to answer questions.
All right, well, thank you so much, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler before we hear from the owner applicant? Seeing none, I'd like to hear from the property owner.
Hi, I'm Tom Shellcross. I'm the property owner. Born and raised in Chicago, raised my family here. Tyler summed it up very nicely. I guess I can, if there's specific things you want me to hit on or any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, I was just reading the letter from EVA, and they noted that there was some proposing of removing several windows. You want to respond to that? Removing several windows, you said on a side elevation.
That's they are proposing to remove windows on the side elevation, but also add new windows. And EVA's concern was over light and ventilation requirements. But I'm not Department of Building, as far as I can tell, it complies.
If I may comment on that, Samuel Helpchick Architecture, architect of record. Yeah, all of the window changes are essentially specifically to address the light and ventilation requirements for the Department of Buildings. The predominant reason for the infill of windows that are being filled in, beyond just a reconfiguration of the layout, is also just the proximity to the property line on that side, which also, let alone just the minimal distance between buildings, with the minimal distance to the property line is how it's taken from a code perspective. And even a replacement of those windows would actually require a fire rated type of window. So we had reconfigured the layout to focus more on the side that has a greater side yard setback and therefore allows for the required light.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We don't often get a letter of opposition from the government. Obviously, I'm gonna guess that if I were to ask what brought this about, I'm probably gonna get, well, what brought this about?
So I don't know Alderman Laspada, but
Okay.
there's no history or anything.
Okay.
This Tyler called me when he got the letter and I was just as shocked as everyone else.
Okay.
I called their office. I did not speak to him directly. I got very bland answers, but I think I'm making an assumption here. I think that going from 2 units to 1 is what caused the letter to be sent out.
Okay.
And
That no one has said that directly. I'm speculating.
And to clarify on that as well, the deconversion to a single family residence would be fully permitted by right in accordance with zoning ordinances. So there's really no concern. I know there's multiple areas in the city that have ordinances that have expanded that are, pointing out significant concern against that. But this is not actually one of those specific.
I understand, thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that context. I don't think there's any other, if there's no further discussion, there's no public comment for this item. So that brings us back to any final points.
I know that at least in the previous part of our meeting with the full commission, it tends to be if an alderman is in opposition to landmark designation, oftentimes that would stall things in city council. That's not what we're dealing with here at all. This would be just a letter of opposition, and it kind of what we determine is what we determine, and whether you can go forward or not.
Yeah.
And it isn't a district already.
The district designation.
It's already
is
designated,
placed.
yeah.
It is, we, just so you know, we also had a conversation with Alderman to, clarify the limits of the commission's authority. Zoning is where the use of the building and density is regulated. Landmarks Commission does not have authority over the use and.
Sure.
And, density.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. Any other points?
Helps me.
Seeing none, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation.
So move.
Seconded.
So moved, by Commissioner Ponce, seconded by Commissioner Urban, yes as well, and the motion carries unanimously. So, you and thank you for being here and congratulations. All right, that moves us to. Sorry. Item number 4, which is 600 North Wabash, the 42nd Ward, Medina Temple. Proposed modifications to third floor temporary casino floor, including additional ceiling lighting and security cameras, new freestanding and hanging partitions. And Emily Barton has a presentation for us.
Yes, I do. So, Medina Temple is one of the most distinctive buildings on the near north side of Chicago, and it's considered one of the nation's finest examples of Middle Eastern style architecture. It was designed by the progressive Chicago architectural firm of Hewlett Schmidt and completed in 1913. The Shriners Fraternal Organization commissioned the building, which included a 4,200-seat auditorium that hosted conventions, circuses, and concerts, and was designated a landmark in 2001. Between 2002 and 2003, the building was adaptively reused as Bloomingdale's. The rehab, which was approved by the commission, included 3 new floors inserted into the volume of the auditorium while preserving the ornamental proscenium and domed ceiling. When Bloomingdale's closed, Bally's moved into the space in 2023, and PRC reviewed and approved the associated interior and exterior changes in August of 2022. So the applicant is now proposing to modify the floor plan of the third floor, including additional pipe rail attached to the ceiling to hang lights and security cameras, and the addition of new partitions, both freestanding and ceiling hung. So just for background, the significant features of the interior of Medina Temple are defined as the auditorium ceiling, which includes the main dome and the 3 secondary domes on the west wall of the auditorium, the proscenium arch, and the matching ornamental surrounds around the flanking organ consoles, the capitals of the 2 floor-to-ceiling columns, and the interior casework of the windows. So this particular proposal is limited to ceiling and partition modifications on the third floor. So we'll talk about the partitions first. The applicant's proposing 3 new partition spaces at the third floor, all inset from the previously approved and constructed perimeter walls. 2 of the partitioned areas will be mounted to the non-historic floor. The first area is sectioned off with an L-shaped bank of low-height planters in the northwest corner of the gaming floor. The second area in the northeast corner will be separated from the main floor by modular felt panels in the northeast portion, approximately 4 feet tall. The third partition space is proposed in the southeast portion of the gaming floor and is proposed to be surrounded by a Fabri-Coil metal mesh partition. These partitions are proposed to be hung from the ceiling. They'll be approximately 12 feet 9 inches tall, which is at least 2.5 below the lower coffered portions of the ceiling, and 5.5 feet below the taller portions of the ceiling. They'll be mounted to the historic ceiling with a fastener affixed to the plaster and connecting to the underlying hollow clay tile. The mesh itself is still partially transparent, allowing for visibility through to the other side, and the 2.5 to 5.5 foot offset from the ceiling does not obscure the decorative coffering. Because of these reasons, staff recommends the new partitions will not be an adverse effect to the building. Here you can see a rendering that kind of shows the partitions in the background. Then the mesh on the right. So to accommodate a new layout, the applicant is also proposing an expansion of the existing structure suspended from the auditorium ceiling for additional lighting and cameras. As noted above, the ceiling above the third floor is included as a significant feature. The ceiling originally enclosed the top of the auditorium and features 3 domes, ornamental plaster, and coffers set off by projecting beams. When the building was originally converted to retail, PRC approved the installation of pipe rail structure suspended from the historic ceiling for the installation of area lighting. When the building was initially converted to the temporary casino, PRC approved the expansion of that structure. The primary dome in the middle of the auditorium ceiling will remain unimpaired, but the new structure will slightly overlap with 2 of the 3 secondary domes. 10 new pipes are proposed to be attached to the ceiling, with all attachment points being located on flat portions of the ceiling. There will be additional new pipes mounted to hang from the primary ceiling pipes. At the ceiling's lowest point, the primary pipes are offset approximately 3.5 feet and nearly 10 feet from the top of the dome. Similar to the metal mesh partition, the pipes are proposed to be hung by hollow clay tile anchors. So as previously approved, the suspended structure offers flexibility in locating and repositioning this equipment, and the hollow tubing can be used to run wiring and data cables, which reduces any visible conduit, which is great. While the structure will be anchored at points to the ceiling, the number of penetrations will be fewer. The structure is also clearly differentiated from the historic ceiling and easily reversible. And staff recommends the additional piping will not be an adverse effect to the designated interior space or building. So staff recommends approval with the conditions that the attachment details are submitted with the permit application. Any attachments to the ceiling should be to flat areas only, and the expanded pipe rail structure should be painted to match the ceiling, such as the rest of the existing fixtures. And then, of course, when the applicant ceases its temporary operations at Medina Temple, all cameras and fixtures mounted directly to the third floor ceiling shall be removed and restored to pre-installation condition. Alderman Riley has reviewed the proposal, but we have not received any comments. I'm here if you have questions, and I believe we have representatives from the architect and eventually owner also.
Thank you, Emily, for a very clear and informative presentation. Commissioner, any questions for Emily before we finish topic?
Yeah, for number 3, since it will be restored back to pre-installation, what is the plan for that to observe and inspect it once it goes back to its installation? Pre-installation condition.
Do you
Well, I mean, if there are repairs that will be required once you remove fixtures, those technically require a permit and we would be reviewing it. And I believe that this is a part of the agreement in general that they have regarding restoration of elements when they vacate. So we will
Yeah.
be involved in some level, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious of that process. I remember when we did this the first time, that going back and just thinking about, okay, this is a huge undertaking, right? And to make it return it back to its original state. I'm curious of that process and what, to make sure that it does.
Anything that's major that would require a permit, we would definitely review, and I think, you certainly have been aware of any changes in the building, so we should be able to understand when that would happen.
Well, like they all come under one permit.
I can't say, I don't know.
Say something, is that, so we would, whatever work that is, if it was shown on drawings or if it comes in as an express permit and it's kind of mentioned, we would, like if it was an express permit, we would be requesting usually additional information like photos. So it's whatever permit comes in that shows the removal of those things, then at that point, we would know they're being removed and require them to be patched
And potentially a site visit. could
Yeah.
be- Wow.
Preemptive, good luck.
and.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the question. Let's hear from, the project architect.
Hi, Wade Splinter here, STL Architect. Thank you for your consideration. I was the original architect of record, project, and this has been a fun and challenging project to insert first casino in Chicago, especially in historic building. There were a lot of challenges, code challenges, egress, the upstairs and everything, and then on this third floor. I learned through the process kind of a lot of the kind of gaming regulations in regards to what you need over. It's not as simple as just place a table, I think originally it's, wow, this is amazing. This is, such a wonderful space for Chicago's first casino. And so we worked through Diana and her team, various options, and ultimately looked at some freestanding, almost like trellis structures that you could hang the lights and cameras, and quite frankly, it was more kind of obtrusive to the experience of the historic space. So I want to thank Diana and her team for the flexibility and kind of the unique requirements of this facility to make it happen. And with this change, again, Bally's has been experiencing the last couple of years, the Chicago market, what works, what doesn't work. And so on this third floor, this change is kind of directly responding to kind of the market demands. And so the reasons for kind of the semi-private areas, again, they are seeing demand from kind of high limit gamers they're trying to respond to. So we tried to be as sensitive as possible to meet all of the various requirements. And the one secondary dome, was a challenge to try to sensitively, the pipe rail over the top is strictly, an Illinois gaming requirement that you have to have cameras directly over that. So, happy to answer any other questions, but appreciate the commission's partnership in this.
Appreciate you, being here and sharing that experience and insights. So, insight into how the process works. So, any other questions? We don't have, we have a public comment. Mr. Warden,
So for the record, Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. Commissioners and staff, and Bally's, we understand the need that these buildings are working, but, I knew this building as a kid. We went to the circus and all the events that were, public events that were hosted there, democratic conventions. And, it just seems like with every turn, this building interior, and I realize the whole interior is not landmark, but it just seems like there's more and more stuff that goes in here that really sort of defaces the few elements that we have that are landmark. The ceiling. We realized that this was a retail store after it became an assembly space, but all of this stuff is so ugly. I can't even walk into the casino because there's just so much stuff packed in there, and so many buzzy machines, and it doesn't even seem like it's a landmark anymore. Now, we understand the need for flexibility in our landmarks. I'm not criticizing you directly, but it just seems like the importance of the building has really been undermined by the use, but I was hoping the use would be less offensive, if you will. And I can't even walk in the space, as I mentioned. And to think that the few elements that are landmarked that are sacred, if you will, by ordinance, are just being further impacted and undermined by all of these pipes and curtains and all of these things that really don't fit in this building, to tell you the truth. And, we're gonna have a new casino in a couple of years. This casino's been operating for a while. It just seems terrible to deface the building further. I also see lighting as an issue, and this building used to have these wonderful chandeliers that were just sort of negotiated out, if you will. I don't even know if those exist anymore, but if they did, it would be wonderful for your lighting aspect to get the ambient light that lit that whole space actually by a series of chandeliers. And I know we're going to probably approve this, but I think somebody needs to say, there's a limit to some of the stuff, and this building maybe just wasn't right for this idea in the first place. And I realize it's better than a vacant building, but I just see this further deteriorating the beautiful qualities of Medina Temple to a point where, why are we protecting these features if we're letting them, be littered, if you will, with all this additional stuff, which I would consider junk, visual junk. And I realize you've got certain things that you have to adhere to per Illinois rules, but it just seems like it's a little excessive, and it's really pushing the door even further towards kind of losing the vision of the landmark on its interior. So I just wanted to offer that. I didn't check opposed or in favor of, because maybe these are modest incursions, but it's impacting the landmark to a point where I'm wondering if it's really a landmark on its interior any longer. It's getting to that point. And I realize you'll maybe fix it if it hits all the right bells and whistles when there's a permit in the future, but I think there's concern about all of that. I just wanted to relay that to you. I'm not a gambler, but it seems like we took a great resource that was where the Chicago Symphony Orchestra used to record. And it was a public forum and a semi-public space. It was landmarked, and we've allowed it to become something other than that, which doesn't contribute, in my mind's eye, to our city, and other than financially. So I just want to say it's a difficult thing. I'm not in opposition. I'm not in favor, but I just see the deterioration occurring with every incursion that continues. Somebody has to say that, so I just want to share that.
No, appreciate your points and comments. Commissioners, that's no one else signed to speak, so we'll move from public comment and then move to final discussion.
Yeah, I mean, just to add what you're saying, that was my question, is that what is, I guess, the guarantee that it's going to be restored to what it was, right? And that's the concern, because it's going to be this for the next 24 months, and then they move out? Or, is there a schedule for that? But that's my concern, which you elaborated much more than I did. And because it is such a big.
I can speak to that broadly. I have not reviewed it personally myself, but I've been told verbally that the agreement that Ballet's has, the lease agreement they have with Friedman Properties, is written into their lease that once it is gone, they have to store everything to its precondition. So, that to me seems like legally enforceable, and, but I haven't seen the document necessarily, but that's what I've been told. And I think Mike Gonzalez, who's not here, relate that to the Landmark Commission.
yeah, and her staff as well, that's the agreement that they have. So hopefully that provides a little bit more assurance.
And that number 3, staff recommendation.
No, just I think you're right, making sure that everything's adhered to when it gets to that point, probably making sure there's some supervision while it's happening and not just inspection after the fact. It's gonna be a lot of work, but ideally, if the things that have been added into the building are as unobtrusive as we say, it shouldn't take forever, but it's gonna be big, so. That's it.
Okay, see no further, unless we want to make any adjustments on the recommendations at all.
No, what adjustments could be made.
Yeah, it says it has to be restored.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, staff here, it's 100% a trustworthy source and that they will do things correctly, and it's just a little bit of a, huh?
You can only prove it is, you guys think it's temporary, you guys.
Yeah.
Unreversible.
Yeah.
Right.
With that, does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Recommendation?
I'll do it.
Someone's gotta do it.
We have a second.
Second.
Second, by Bishop Austin, and I'm yes as well, and this motion carries unanimous. We expect things to be restored as they should be, let's make this, so work to go back and build.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 5, 201 North Sangamon, 27th floor, Fulton Randolph Market District. The proposed installation of 3 new blade signs, each 8 feet tall by 1 foot 6 wide, mounted with the top at 26 feet 11 above grade at the south and west elevations. Tyler has a the presentation.
Thank you. Yes, this is the subject property is a tenant space within the new construction building. It takes up the entire west half of the block along North Sangamon, between West Fulton Market, the north, and West Lake, the south. We just reviewed another project for this building in June. Their tenant space address is 201. The building itself was initially approved by the committee in July 2021, with subsequent changes approved in March 2022. As the building nears completion, a tenant space consisting of a portion of the first floor at the south of the building and the majority of the second floor, identified by dashed lines here, are proposed to be built out as a new fitness club called Equinox. Equinox is proposed to add 3 new signs to the facade, 2 at the west elevation on Sangamon and 1 south elevation at Lake. At the south on Lake, Equinox will occupy all of the storefronts on the first and second floors, highlighted in blue, the key elevation at top right. On this elevation, a blade sign is proposed to be mounted at the second floor on the masonry pier between the first and second bays from the west. The approximate location is shown in the dash, or shown dashed in the photo above. At the west elevation on Sangamon, a second blade sign, identical in size and design, first is proposed to be mounted at the second pier from the north. Note that at the June meeting this year, a blade sign was approved for the northwest corner of the building for the future first floor tenant, Gibson's Tavern. The proposed sign for Equinox will be separated from the corner by 2 bays so as to set it apart from the future Gibson sign and avoid added visual clutter. The other sign proposed at the west elevation is a horizontal sign consisting of individually illuminated letters to be mounted above the entrance to Equinox within the southmost bay to the right. So for the blade signs, should note there's 2 blade signs. Both blade signs are proposed to be 8 feet tall and would be mounted with the top of the sign 26 foot 11 inches above grade, and the bottom at 18 foot 11 inches. Aligned with the horizontal mullion at the top of the panel within each of the, or within the adjacent second floor windows. The signs are 1 foot 6 inches wide and attached to the facade with three arms at the top, middle, and bottom. Signs would be held out 5 inches from the face of the building for a total projection of 1 foot 11 inches. Each proposed sign is composed of an opaque aluminum cabinet, 4 inches thick, with the word Equinox spelled in equally spaced white aluminum letters. The letters are pin mounted, 2 inches off the face of the cabinet, with internal white LEDs and here billet backlights to project blue white onto the cabinet. An example of a similar sign for another location is shown over to the right. Staff recommend the design, cabinet thickness, and halo illumination all meet the district guidelines for signage and are compatible with the building and the district. The other sign is proposed to be mounted to the section of the canopy over the storefront that will become the main entrance for Equinox. This sign is proposed to be 19 feet 6 inches wide by 2 feet tall, with individual letters spaced out as shown. An example of a similar sign in another location shown above. Like the blade signs, the proportions, illumination, and location are all consistent with the district guidelines and compatible with the building and district. Note that in the version of the proposal you received in your packets, this horizontal sign was to be mounted directly to the face of the building. At the time, either we or the applicants were aware of the canopy that had been installed at that location, so the proposal has been revised to show the sign mounted above the canopy. So our recommendations, this is a pre-permit proposal, detailed sign exhibits and shop drawings have not yet been submitted. As a standard requirement, all electrical components such as junction box and conduit should be concealed from view. And where a permit application is received, the drawing should show this. Staff recommends approval of the signs with that condition. The 27th Ward Office has reviewed the proposal and has no objection. The Westwood Community Organization received the proposal, but did not offer comment. And I believe we have representatives from W.E. O'Neill available to answer questions about the signs.
You're Sean O'Meara, as Equinox, stepping in for Kevin. Thank you for your work on this. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions on this project and signs? Seeing none, I don't think anyone's signed up to speak on this item today, so I'd like to move to a final discussion, and if there's none, then yeah, want to make a motion on the staff recommendations?
So move.
All right, so move, well, you made a motion.
Yes. I make a motion
Commissioner
to
Hodges made a motion.
pass the staff recommendations.
I yourself moved, and so moved, so Commissioner Rivers moved, and I am moved, make a motion as well, the motion carried unanimously. Congratulations, thank you for coming. All right, moving on to our final project, 1357 North Elston, 27th Ward, it's the Norton Salt Company Warehouse Complex. It's a violation. Construction of a new glass and metal operable rooftop enclosure on the packaging building. So Colin, Emily, pardon for the presentation.
Thank you. So I think by this point, you're all familiar with this project, and various elements and modifications have been approved over the last 5 years. It's just as a reminder, the complex occupies a roughly triangular site between the north branch of the river, Elston Avenue, and Blackhawk Street. In December of last year, the applicant constructed a permanent glass and metal operable enclosure on an existing roof terrace on the packaging building. After being cited for a violation for building the structure without a permit, the applicant has applied for a permit to legalize the work. So the enclosure is approximately 63 feet and 4 inches in length, east to west, and 33 feet 4 inches in width, north to south. It is operable with a gable-shaped roof, approximately 13 feet tall. This roof has, the roof of the packaging building has a very shallow parapet of approximately 8 inches, with existing railings that reach 2 foot 9 inches above the parapet setback. The gable roof of the enclosure is an additional 9.5 feet taller than the railings. The enclosure is set back 13 feet 9 inches from the south elevation and approximately 7 feet from the east railing. Staff conducted a site visit to evaluate the visibility and impact on the designated roof line. Because of the shallow setback, the new enclosure is visible from within the complex, but also from a small easternmost section of Blackhawk. So previously, the committee approved a visible addition to the packaging building, which was directly south of this subject terrace. In part because while it was visible from within the complex, it was only minimally visible from Elston from vantage points further away and not from Black Hawk. The new addition extends a bit further east towards the river, but is substantially lower in height than the previously built addition. While this rooftop structure is minimally visible from Black Hawk, staff recommend that it does not have an adverse impact on the historic and architectural character of the site. The structure does not introduce any new materials to the complex, and the dark metal elements are compatible with the significant metal trusses visible from the inside and outside of the main shed building. The gabled roof is similar to the gable on the main shed, and generally speaking, the structure is contextually appropriate to the industrial nature of the complex. Because of these reasons, staff recommends the rooftop addition be approved as proposed. 27th Ward did not get back with comments, but they're in support of the development as a whole, for sure. That's it, and I believe we have the project attorney, owners, and architects.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Any questions for Emily before we hear from the applicant? No, let's hear from,
Paul Thoroughly with Blue Star Properties. Thank you for consideration today. I think we don't have any specific statements, happy to answer any questions, but I just thank staff for their hard work and guidance with this.
Commissioners, any questions? No, yes, okay, oh, good. Okay, if there's any questions currently, I'd like to move to public comment. We'll, just have one person sign up speaking, Mr. Ward Miller.
Yes, again, for the record, Ward Miller, Treehouse Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. We realized that there's a violation here of a building without a permit. And that's a no-no, and we get it. This is really an unusual complex. Morton Salt Company building now is a music and event venue, forgive me. And it's really a remarkable complex that is really adding to the character of the North Branch of the Chicago River. And it's an amazing venue. And they also agreed to a landmark designation of this building that really is iconic as you see it from the Kennedy Expressway, I-90-94. And it's unfortunate they built this without a permit, but I think we're really of the opinion that this is a very successful venue. It takes advantage of a former industrial site. I think as we look to other sites of the city, we really would like to see more of these types of developments, or creative developments, I should say, in some of our industrial buildings that are really lacking recognition as landmarks. So I think this is one where we sort of forgive the salt shed venue, if you will. But I think this is one where a lesson hard learned, and I'm hoping that in the future they'll come back to the commission and request permits, because I think it is a very exciting venue, and I think it's a worthy landmark as well.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Miller. That's the end of the public comment period. Any final discussion, questions for the applicant?
I mean, the only thing I wrote here is ask for forgiveness rather than.
Is that an apology?
I mean, why are we here anyway? So that there's no comment.
I don't have anything to add. Do you want anything to add to that?
And not particularly, I can, on behalf of the ownership, and we regret the process that we jumped into. We got, I think, as Ward mentioned, it's like a creative endeavors. Sometimes the creative minds run with something, and we do our best to slow them down. This is a case where I think the creative side of the firm got ahead of itself, and I think I would anticipate this would be the last time, or the one only time it'll happen.
Figure if you're already here, you know there's no lecture necessary. So, Glad everybody's on the same page.
Thank you.
All right, very good. There's no further discussion. I'd like to request a motion to adopt staff recommendation. So move Commissioner Rubin. Second by Commissioner Ponte, yes, motion carries unanimously. So. And this is our last item on the agenda. There's no further business, so I'd like to put a motion to adjourn. So moved by Commissioner Rubin.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Watson, yes, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
I was right.